Numerous animals have been known to create strange and unusual phenomena. Some of these animals can make a fiery inferno as they bake their food. Others use a specific color as a warning signal to potential predators, and some can manipulate light in the dark. In this video, we will explore strange animal phenomena on Earth, a list of weird animal behavior. These animals will make you think twice about what's going on in your backyard. Humans need not worry though. These creatures are nothing like us. Number 13. Web Cocooned Trees. Massive spider webs have grown in communities in Australia that have recently been flooded, stretching across trees and paddocks. The gossamer-like veils developed after days of torrential rain, according to residents in Victoria's Gippsland region. A spider web covered more than a kilometer of a road in one location. The veils are said to be formed by spiders using a survival strategy known as ballooning. They send out silk to climb to higher land. Dr. Ken Walker, a senior insect curator at Museums Victoria, estimated that millions of spiders had thrown threads up into the trees. Spiders that live on the ground need to get off the ground as soon as possible. The silk snakes up and clings to the foliage, allowing them to flee, the resident told the Australian newspaper The Age. Experts claim the spiders tried to escape the water by attaching them to higher terrain. Large gossamer sheets had formed in the wetlands between Sale and Longford due to this. A billowing wave, says the narrator. Local councillor Carolyn Crossley said she went down to a lake dam to check for flood damage on Monday evening and was startled by the natural phenomena. Miss Crossley had seen the effect before, but not on such a massive scale, she said. It wasn't frightening. Instead, it was lovely. Everything was engulfed in this adorable gossamer spider's web, which was all over the trees and fences. She told the BBC about it. At the moment, the sun was setting, and the light was stunning, just to watch it billowing across the landscape. The netting appeared to be one single sheet swarming with tiny spiders, she said. The fact that it didn't divide, it looked like these spiders were working together to create some magnificent landscape art installation or something, she explained. Amanda Traeger, another nearby resident, told the BBC that her family initially mistook the webs for netting along the side of the road. She answered, "I've seen it before, but nothing like this. It was just amazing," says the narrator. The delicate webs will most likely collapse shortly. Locals claim the ethereal image was a welcome sight following the stormy weather of the previous days. Red crab immigration. On the rainforest floor of Christmas Island, there are usually over 120 million crabs. Yes, 120 million. They cover the whole bottom of the island. Red crabs dwell alone in deep rock crevices or dirt tunnels. Crabs spend most of the year in the shadow of their home. The migration begins when the wet season's first rains fall. This happens typically in October or November, although it can also happen in December or January. All of the red crabs on the island leave their homes simultaneously and begin marching towards the ocean to mate and spawn. Male crabs lead the migration, which female crabs follow. The moon's phase determines the exact timing and speed of the migration. During the last quarter of the moon, red crabs always spawn before dawn on a receding high tide. Surprisingly, they know just when to emerge from their burrows on this lunar date. On the other hand, crabs must occasionally hurry since they wait until the first rain to begin their journey. The showers will move if they reach the optimal spawning date. However, if the rain arrives early, they can take their time getting to the coast, stopping to eat and drink along the route. Some crabs will stay in their burrows and migrate the following month if it starts raining too late to make the spawning date. Male crabs are usually the first to arrive in the water, but female crabs quickly outnumber them. The crabs take a bath in the sea to rehydrate after their long voyage from the plateau. The male crabs then return to the island's lower terraces to dig burrows. Caves are close together because of many crabs, and males frequently battle to control a burrow. Female crabs then congregate on the decks with the males to mate in or near the caves. Male crabs take a second dip in the sea after mating before beginning their trek back home. All of this presents a sight full of red crabs, which many find appealing to their eyes. Number 11. Germany's exploding toads. Toads frequently inflate themselves to make themselves appear larger to predators. However, they rarely burst, except for a few days in April 2005 in Hamburg, Germany, when millions of frogs blew apart over a few days, scattering tiny toad fragments up to a meter away. Sounds terrible, right? Dr. Franz Muchmann, a veterinarian from Berlin, proposed the following explanation to explain the toad's ostensibly spontaneous explosions. A crow flock had lately settled in sections of Hamburg, and they had developed a liking for toad liver. Before the toads even realized what had happened, the crows would swoop down, thrust their beaks inside the toads, and steal their livers. To frighten the crows away, the toads would inflate themselves up, but the pressure from the crow's holes in their skin would push their insides to the outside, shattering the toad into bits. Number 10. The Globsters. Huge lumps of unexplained flesh known as globsters wash the shores on beaches worldwide. They frequently resemble animals that science has never seen before. They can weigh many tons and have been seen on beaches worldwide over the last century. So what exactly are they? Initially, they were thought to be giant squids and other uncommon or non-existent aquatic organisms. But scientists have discovered that the explanation isn't quite that fantastic. So far, every globster discovered has been positively identified as the remains of an ordinary mammal, generally a whale, before it washes back out to sea or is tampered with in some way. A globster discovered in Chile in 2003, for example, was found to be the skin of a sperm whale. Because dead creatures in the ocean float, anything left over from predators or natural decomposition can become entangled in a strong tide and wash up on dry land, grossing us all out. Number 9. Mike the Headless Chicken. Farmer Lloyd Olson put one of his many chickens on the chopping block in 1945 to make dinner for his family. Something weird happened after the chicken's head was chopped. It didn't die. Mike, the family's name for the headless chicken, wandered around the farm, refusing to be eaten as Olson's dinner. The Olsons discovered that they could still feed and water by inserting an eyedropper into Mike's neck hole. They then took the chicken on the road and introduced him to Mike, the headless chicken. Mike was still alive because of some magic. As it happens, it was pure luck. According to scientists at the University of Utah, Mike's brainstem was barely missed by Olson, allowing him to walk and move even after his beheading. Mike died tragically after his family misplaced his eyedropper and could not save him when he choked on a kernel of corn. Number 8. Thousands of fish with no eyes wash up on the same beach, twice. A few years ago, the news was replete with reports of enormous animal fatalities, particularly birds. Almost all of them had perfectly reasonable explanations, such as pyrotechniques scaring birds into flying into trees and buildings, but a handful remained unexplained. Thousands of dead snappers washed ashore on the Coromandel Peninsula in New Zealand in early 2011, many of them without eyes. Even though wildlife authorities investigated the incident, no official explanation was ever given. It may have been deliberate, according to an early statement. The identical thing happened almost exactly 2 years later on the same beach. Thousands of snappers appeared, their bodies covered in bizarre sores. Officials determined that it was most likely a broken net being carried by an illegal fishing boat this time, but they didn't disclose how or if it was linked to the earlier deaths. Number 7. The Malawi Terror Beast. Villagers in Malawi's Dowa district fled in fear of a creature known as the Terror Beast, an unnamed animal that murdered 3 people and injured 16 others in 2003. The beast left its victims mutilated, ripping off limbs and disemboweling the deceased. This appeared to be exceedingly rare behavior, as most animals only attack in self-defense or to feed. The people characterized it as a massive dog of some sort. Furthermore, a year ago, a similar animal killed 5 people and injured 20 others. Authorities killed that one, which they discovered to be a rabid hyena. However, survivors of the initial attack claimed the beast was too huge to be a hyena and that the animal killed was not the one who attacked them. Meanwhile, the terror beast, which was maybe a rabid hyena, was never discovered. Number 6. Photographs of the Florida skunk ape. Residents in Campbell County, Florida began seeing a giant ape-like creature and finding dead cats in their areas in 2000. Some speculated that it was a Bigfoot-like monster known as the skunk ape. Things became weirder when an unidentified woman sent the cops 2 photos of the item. Lauren Coleman, a cryptozoologist, became intrigued by the story and began collecting newspaper articles and copies of the unidentified woman's letters and images. The skunk ape vanished after a while, and the photos were never positively identified. Coleman's website provides a pretty decent explanation, albeit he and the cryptozoological community don't believe it. The skunk ape is compared to a conventional orangutan in a comparison image created by a Canadian Wildlife Service biologist named Tony Schoonham. Not coincidence, Animal Control had been investigating a missing orangutan. It's almost as much of a mystery how an orangutan got out in Campbell County as anything else. Number 5. Attack of Locusts. Imagine thousands of locusts flying above your head. In short, a sky full of locusts. Sounds frightful, right? This crisis happened in East Africa. A locust pandemic was sweeping the region, threatening the food supply of tens of millions of people. Swarms of the dreaded pests the size of cities were wreaking havoc on crops and pasture lands, eating everything in hours. The locust infestation, which spread to 7 East African countries, was unprecedented in its scope. Desert locusts, despite their name, thrive during periods of excessive rainfall that induce vegetation blooms across their generally parched habitats in Africa and the Middle East. The fundamental cause, according to experts, is a lengthy period of unusually wet weather, which included 4 uncommon cyclones that hit eastern Africa and the Arabian Peninsula in 18 months. The recent storminess, in turn, is linked to the Indian Ocean Dipole. This recently highly prominent ocean temperature gradient has also been linked to the deadly bushfires in eastern Australia. Number 4. The camouflage ability of giant Pacific octopus. The enormous Pacific octopus is the most giant and longest living octopus species. A specimen measuring 30 feet across and weighing more than 600 pounds holds the world record for size. The average height and weight are 16 feet and 110 pounds. This octopus hides in the water using camouflage to evade predators such as sharks and dolphins. Swimming backward is one of their most astounding abilities. They can rotate their bodies 180 degrees in a matter of seconds, which is how they catch fish with their beaks. Giant Pacific octopuses are highly clever organisms that have learned to open jars, imitate other octopuses, and solve mazes in lab testing. Their population size is unknown and they are not currently included on any endangered or vulnerable species lists. They are, however, susceptible to environmental circumstances and may be exposed to high amounts of pollution in their habitat. Number 3. Dead bird rain. Dead birds are often viewed as a sign that something terrible will happen. Now imagine thousands of birds killed falling on New Year's Eve. Yes, New Year's Eve. Thousands of dead birds fell in Arkansas on New Year's Eve, and similar accounts came in this week from Louisiana, Sweden, and other places. But the deaths of birds in the air aren't caused by some apocalyptic virus or nefarious experiment. They happen all the time, according to biologists. The latest buzz appears to have been sparked mainly by media hype. There are at least 10 billion birds in North America, and there could be as many as 20 billion at any given time, according to ornithologist Greg Butcher, director of bird conservation for the National Audubon Society in Washington, D.C. Nearly half of them die each year due to natural causes, he said. But what causes a large number of dead birds to fall from the sky? Loud noises and collisions are 2 common factors in the Arkansas case. On New Year's Eve, about 11:30 p.m., Arkansas wildlife authorities began receiving reports of birds falling from the sky in the square-mile region of Beebe. According to officials, up to 5,000 red-winged blackbirds, European starlings, common grackles, and brown-headed cowbirds were estimated to have died before midnight. According to preliminary tests released Wednesday by the National Wildlife Health Center in Madison, Wisconsin, the birds died from blunt force trauma, which backs up preliminary findings released by the Arkansas Livestock and Poultry Commission on Monday. They collided with automobiles, trees, buildings, and other fixed objects, said Arkansas Game and Fish Commission biologist Karen Rowe. It looks that fairly loud booms from professional-grade fireworks, 10 to 12 of them, a few seconds apart, were reported right before they began to fall in the general region of a roost of the birds, flushing them out, Rowe said. At the same time, there were other legal fireworks let off, which may have forced the birds to fly lower than they normally do, below treetop level, and these species have poor night vision and do not typically fly at night. Number 2. The Poison Dart Frogs. This little guy is known for its bright blue color and the poisonous slimy poison it secretes. This poison can be deadly to animals, but luckily, these little guys are only toxic to predators. If you happen to touch this frog's skin or give it water containing poison, prepare yourself for some severe pain. Number 1. The Blue-Ringed Octopus. This tiny little octopus is known to be quite a potential predator. They are small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, but they are very deadly due to their venomous bite. Despite being so small, this sea creature is known to attack boats and even humans who stray too close for comfort. This is because they are territorial creatures who will attack any intruders on their territory. Some have even been known to crawl across boats and cling onto people's legs or arms. These little guys can also change the skin color, which helps them camouflage themselves in the water. It can take just 50 milliseconds for them to do this.